Hi folks, you're with Tacitus Today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio, radio, no pictures live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the European parliamentary elections, not surprisingly going on in Europe at the moment. Now, there's a lot of disquiet about the cost of energy, cost of living, mass migration, and so on, and this is being reflected in how people vote. Similarly, largely, I think, because of Elon Musk's takeover of X and the rise of many independent media channels, the people have got access to news outside of the very curated and globalist controlled mainstream narrative delivery. And this is reflected or appears to be thus far at least, reflected in the mix and the type of candidates that are being elected to the European Parliament. And for the first time certainly since the modern version of the European Parliament, the European Union Parliament, we're looking at a situation where for the first time the pro-globalist parties may not have an outright majority. It may be a close-run thing, and I'm sure there's rigging going on in the back room here and there just to make sure that they do keep their majority. But it's I think if the people's choices are reflected, then I would suspect they'd lose their majority. The pro-globalist parties. Just before going, when the European Union was started, it was really just some bureaucrats that were to administer internal trading rules. So, tariffs and trade quotas and all these sorts of things. It was something to administer that, to make sure that, or to attempt to ensure that it was European goods and services that would be given, if you like, first opportunity for the trade deal between European countries, as opposed to buying everything from the United States and that sort of thing. So it was really just something to administer the trade, but it grew and grew and until many countries now have effectively given up a part or a large part of their sovereignty, their national sovereignty to the European Union, which of course is the globalist objective, that there will be no sovereign government anywhere in the world. And when you take away sovereign governments, you then take away accountability. When you take away accountability, why would you need to vote, for goodness sakes? Because all the decisions are going to be made by bureaucrats in an office somewhere. So anyway, this is so the European Union is very much part of the wider globalist project of removing sovereignty, and inherent in that is the mass migration, the Green New Deal, you'll own nothing and be happy, and universal basic income, 15-minute cities where the people have no say at all in their government. And every piece of information that you see and hear is a part of a carefully curated, centrally controlled narrative. That's where things are going at astonishing speed. 25 years ago, I wouldn't have believed it was possible, but here we are. So these elections are really the first time when the authority of and the control that they wield has been under any threat. Really, there've been minor parties that have been quite vocal in the past, but the globalist controlled parties have never really been in doubt as to their ability to decide and determine what's going on and to ride roughshod over any others. This is now under threat, and they're panicking a bit, so they've sent their propagandists out on the social media platforms to spread fear and panic and doubt and to assert that any loss of control, that these loss of the majority in the European Parliament, that these globalist flunky parties, if their control is threatened or lost for that matter, then it's a huge disaster because Nazis are on the march. So there's it's just a few videos I've looked at. They all seem to get very, very big viewings. Within a day of coming out, they've got anywhere between 250,000 and 1 million views, supposedly. I don't necessarily believe that's the case, but those are the numbers on the video there. So anyway, here's one guy. he's a Jewish homosexual American hippie, ponytail, the whole business, and he's telling us how dangerous things are, how things like it's really dangerous. Wow, it's so dangerous, because the main, as he refers to it, that the mainstream political parties, which are the ones totally and completely controlled by the globalists, they're probably going to lose their majority or their ability to just control things and direct things as they please, and this is a bad thing. Now, why is it a bad thing? Doesn't say, just that it is bad. And the danger of he wants, or the idea is that if you just have two political parties completely controlled by the globalist cabal, then that's good. Why is it good? Doesn't say. But the threat to this monopoly control of power, which is asserted as a good thing, monopoly control of power, where the people have no real choice. So whenever the people get choice, then it's a bad thing, is the assertion here. Why is it bad? It doesn't say. But it gives an opportunity for, as these commentators, he's one of a number of commentators, it gives an opportunity where the globalists can't quite control everything. That's bad. It doesn't say why it's bad. And that these smaller parties can reflect the popular will of the people, which is definitely bad, according to these commentators. Well, why? They're populist. Now, populist is code for Nazi, it seems, but these commentators say, well, the populist parties are going, which include far right and fascist and Nazi, and not that we'd be worried about 1930s Europe. Yeah, wink, wink, nod, nod. So they talk about dog whistles, that the other side do. Like, that's not a dog whistle. Populist is expressing the will of the people. Now, if the people get a choice, as in a real choice at the polls, they may vote for a party that the globalists don't control, and that's bad, which is really where these commentators are going. So we have to have a situation that's easily and effortlessly controllable by the globalists, and then everything's fine, and things are. The program can be rolled out without fuss and bother. But if people have a choice, like in a democracy, if people have a choice, then they may make the wrong choice. That can't be allowed, because it is clearly leading to fascism, Nazis, and Hitler. So now the commentators make a series of I think false observations. Firstly, is that or among them rather, this is in no particular order, is that as Europe ages, the average age increases, then that means older people who are either approaching or have retired are going to, who still have the vote, they will vote for Nazis, apparently. And why? Doesn't say, but just somehow they will. So we have to stop the older people, the effect of the older people's vote by, well, is a veiled sort of suggestion that maybe people above a certain age shouldn't be allowed to vote because they may vote the wrong way, or that we give freshly minted illiterate peasant migrants the right to vote because they'll vote for socially progressive policies. So the commentator says, or we give 16-year-olds the vote, and that will neutralise and nullify the effect of the old people. But as long as we've got these older people voting in an ageing population, the chances are they'll vote for policies that are not sufficiently progressive. Now, again, we're talking about a Jewish American homosexual hippie here, so whose prominence amongst NGOs is a minted propagandist and NGO spreader of lies and terror and that sort of thing. But nonetheless, his view is that progressive policies are the Green New Deal, mass migration, LGBTQ, hating on white people, and hating on all white society. These are somehow progressive policies. Anyone that questions or opposes those is Hitler. So this is the propaganda they're spreading now. Now I'm listening sort of quite intently here because I'm waiting for I'm waiting for sort of definitions. What is far right in its view? Well, what you say that Nazis are everywhere across Europe and being voted into political parties and government. Well, where? What Nazi? What are you talking about? Do you even know what you're talking about, you fucking idiot? So no definitions as to what Nazi, what are these Nazi? What are their policies? What prescriptions do they have that, as in policy prescription, what do they have that would define them or expose them as Nazis? He doesn't say, but it keeps coming back to the thing that any popular expression by, he insists that this one guy insists we must do everything to protect democracy as long as we don't allow people to vote, for as long as the popular will of the people is not expressed in a democracy. I'd love to know how that one works out, but anyway, that's the position here. So clearly, he's a propagandist, not someone who's divulging useful information. But there's no definition of what Nazi is, what Nazi policies are. The hints are that if you disagree with mass migration, if you disagree with the Green New Deal, that's the thing that you are there for, and that's the sort of by implication extension that appears to be it. But again, there's no definition of what Nazi is. But it just shows the idiocy of the propaganda that's put out by these. There are no Nazis. There are people that want to, say that we should keep migration to skilled levels of people who can integrate in society, but that's hardly Nazi, for goodness sakes. But the radical leftists, when they want to do things, this is something that annoys. And even if you go online, you look for far left, like just put far left into Google, and you'll only come back with people that are fighting fascism, for example. That's the far left. But you have far right, and it's thousands of pages of and photographs of anything. There's just a massive amount of supposed far right, whereas the far right would be microscopic compared to the far left in terms of overall size and mass. But the radical policies of the communist Greens parties and things like that. That's the treatment that get is, well, these people, they're a little eccentric. Yeah, sure, okay, they've got a few interesting ideas, but they mean well. They're trying to do well. But whereas anyone that opposes mass migration is Hitler. So those are the extremes of the positions and the absurdity of the positions. But it surprised me just how much propaganda is doing the rounds from these idiots who are telling the most outrageous lies, but having one very specific position they're coming from, which is anyone who opposes the globalist project is Hitler. You've been a Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.